Ladies and gentlemen, we'll call to order the Rockingham County Board of Elections meeting for June the 16th. We welcome all of you to our meeting, and as we start our meeting, we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Seamster, who will be leading that?
Whoever you would like. I did not have a volunteer.
Diane Parnell, I see you. How about you leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll do the invocation by Pastor Wes Pitts. Please stand with me.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Pitts.
Thank you so much for the invitation to be here today to offer an opening prayer for this proceeding. It is great to be with you, and I offer warm wishes of hello, I guess, from First Presbyterian Church in Reedsville, where I serve as pastor. Let us pray. Almighty God, bless your people. Give us your peace, your help, and your love. Let us be united in your peace, one in body, mind, and spirit, one in direction, to serve your people with the same equity, passion, justice, and love as you have shown us. When we stray, seeking the whims of division, serving the interests of the few at the cost of the many, living for ourselves instead of your justice, help us to find our way back to the path of peace. In the work of this body, may there be unanimity in the call to serve all people in Rockingham County, enabling them to freely use their right to vote to decide the direction of this county, state, and nation, even when, especially when, their votes don't align with our particular political goals. May higher ideals, the ideals of love and peace, the ideals that you have shown us in your Son, Christ, always prevail. This I pray in the name of Christ. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Rockingham County Board of Elections works from an approved agenda. You've had the agenda for a few days now. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 5 is the consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda are normally non-controversial items. And if you have a question concerning them, you can call the director and get a clarification on it. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that brings us to public comments. We have several people signed up for public comments. Ms. Seamster, would you read our rules governing public comments?
The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing members of the public to present any matter pertaining to the Board of Elections business or items on the Board of Elections agenda. This period shall last for 3 minutes. Remarks shall be addressed directly to the board, not the staff, the audience, or the media. The chairperson shall open the public comment period. Any speaker who wishes to speak shall approach the podium and not speak from his or her seat. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and physical address when he or she approaches the podium. Again, everyone will be allowed the allotment of 3 minutes.
Okay, the first name that we have on the list is Ann Brady.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for hearing me. I'm here representing the Rockingham County Democratic Party, and I'm addressing the early voting schedule that you're going to be addressing tonight. You have like 7 options, but basically it comes down to 1 or 2 Saturdays and a Sunday, and all of the options have 0, 1, or 2 extra days beyond the 12 weekdays. I would like to encourage you to allow as much early voting as possible. So I would like among your, since Sunday and 2 Saturdays is not an option, would prefer first choice would be a Sunday and a Saturday. I don't care which Saturday. And second choice would be the 2 Saturdays. I did pull together some data. I don't have, it's not all our data, but I looked at the voting record from early voting in 2020, 2022, 24, 26. 2 of them were primaries, 2 are generals. And the percent increase on a per-hour basis for people who vote on Saturday compared to weekdays, for primaries, this is amazing, 237% increase. So a per-hour basis, Saturdays get a lot better vote per hour. So very efficient. For the general election, it was only 65% increase on a per-hour basis for Saturday, and the Sunday was a 64% increase over the regular days. So I think with the data here from Rockingham County, I think that supports us having at least 2 early voting days that are beyond the weekdays. I guess beyond that, you have no influence over what they're doing in Raleigh, but I'm concerned. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you very much for hearing me. Any questions?
Thank you. Our next speaker is Heather, is it Metter? Thank you. English was the only foreign language I took in school.
I apologize, my handwriting is not the greatest, and it's
that's
also
fine.
been a very long day. I come here returning from Raleigh, actually. I've been at the Legislative Building today.
Well, I'm sure that was fun.
Yes, but I'll keep my statement brief. I should say Heather Metter from 243 Meadow Lake Road, Reidsville, North Carolina. But anyway, as I said earlier, I came from the Legislative Building today, and last Friday, House Republicans released a new proposed committee substitute for the House Bill 958, and I'm sure y'all are aware of this new bill that's coming through, or possibly coming through. But the bill is now open for public comment. I would encourage y'all to go read it and make your comments known. That goes both for the board and for our guest here. And make sure you're in agreement with it. But some of the changes that would potentially occur would be restrictions on overseas and military voters, expanded authority at the State Board of Elections, which would obviously reduce our local Board of Elections power over elections, restrictions on election officials, potential removal of precinct officials, voter registration and ballot changes, which I'll read the body of that. The proposal requires county boards to remove voters identified by federal agencies as deceased within a short time frame, which I understand that. The challenged ballot shall not be counted if the voter died between the time that the challenged ballot was cast and 6:30 a.m. on election day. It also moves the requirements for the statewide ballot audits and challenges to requirements, before election results are canvassed. Election advocates have been warned that compromised timelines may increase the risk of errors affecting eligible voters. There would be,
Oh, you still have a minute.
Minute.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Your warning.
There also would be a ban on ranked choice voting options, which I know that we currently don't have that, but hopefully in the future we may consider doing that. Campaign finance changes. And like I said, comments are still open, so please get your comments in. Okay, thank you.
Lisa Harris.
Right.
Good afternoon, Board of Elections. Mr. Chair and esteemed Board of Elections, I want to thank each of you for your roles that you've taken by being Board of Elections
Harris,
members.
let me would you give your name?
Absolutely.
And your
Again,
address?
Lisa Harris, 311 Short Avenue.
Thank you.
You didn't take my time, did you?
No, we'll give it back to you.
Okay. I just want to thank each of you for the efforts that you do as Board of Elections members to continue to promote the basic things that you took your roles for, to promote voter education, to promote and encourage individuals to get out to vote, and voter turnout, registration, and just the basic things of representing the rights of voters in Rockingham County. As many of you know, and I do appreciate the young lady before me that spoke about going to Raleigh, we've been doing a lot of that lately. However, at the end of the day, like the voting restriction in Ombudsman bill is extremely concerning. So I do encourage each of you or any of the residents in Rockingham County to look up and read that bill. But I encourage you as Board of Elections members to honor the fact that we want to ensure that we try to eliminate as many provisional ballots as we can. And how can we do that? By supporting the early voting schedules that allow weekend voting, that allow Saturday and Sunday voting, that allow individuals that work to get off work and come on the weekends, bring their family members, and don't create additional barriers. Now, many of you may say, oh, well, we don't want to do that because of funding. But at the end of the day, it's worth it for the voting rights of our citizens in Rockingham County. As Board of Elections members, we hope that you will take this into strong consideration and look out for the residents of Rockingham County. Colleagues before me have talked about the fact of the voting count and participation numbers have been extremely successful. So I want to thank each of you for your roles as our Board of Elections, but just remind each of you to please remember to make sure that we do not suppress anyone's votes by limiting our early voting schedules. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our public comment section. And so item number,
Email.
oh, that's right. You have an email to read, that's correct. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Please go. Do it.
Okay. This is from the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, Rockingham County Branch, NAACP. Dear Mr. Powell and board members, thank you so much for the opportunity to once again address this board. I am sorry that I am unable to attend due to my commitment to Vacation Bible School at my church tonight. However, I did want to share my sentiments regarding your upcoming decision for the early voting schedule. I ask that you please consider one of the options that includes a Sunday time slot. The purpose of early voting is to provide citizens with flexibility and to remove barriers that can prevent people from participating in elections. While our current schedule provides weekday and Saturday opportunities, adding Sunday hours would offer many voters an additional option that better fits their lives and responsibilities. I understand that many voters within Rockingham County work long hours, rotating shifts, or multiple jobs. Other voters are caregivers for children, elderly parents, or family members with disabilities. For some of them, Sunday may be the one day during the week when they have enough time to travel to an early voting site and cast their ballot without rushing or missing work. It also helps those who rely on others for transportation. Family members, neighbors, and community organizations are often more available on Sundays to assist those who need a ride to vote. Our organization's goal include ensuring the political, education, social, and economic quality of all citizens. Additionally, removing all barriers of racial discrimination through democratic processes and motivating people to participate in the upcoming political process will be at the top of our agenda. Congregations within this county have a long tradition of promoting voter engagement and helping citizens exercise their constitutional right to vote. Sunday voting provides another opportunity for those community efforts to succeed. I respectfully ask the board to consider adding Sunday hours to the early voting schedule and to continue looking for ways to make voting accessible for all eligible voters within Rockingham County. When voting is accessible, voter participation increases, confidence grows, and our democracy is stronger. I ask you to give Rockingham County voters the additional opportunity for Sunday voting, that Sunday voting provides. Let us be seen as a county that cares about providing opportunities, not taking them away. We look forward to other opportunities to support one another in our similar objectives to educate, motivate, and empower the voters in Rockingham County. Thank you so much for your time and your service. Respectfully submitted, Reverend Dr. Kenneth Moore, President, and Rochelle Tucker, Chair of the Political Action Committee.
Okay, I believe that concludes our public comment section. And so we'll go to item number 7, Eden Early Voting Site. Ms. Seamster, would you like to start that subject matter off with the board?
Yes. We actually tried a new voting site this last time for early voting with the City of Eden Town Hall, well, City Hall. We did have quite a few complaints about the hill going up to the site, the stairs to climb, and the distance that they had to walk. Parking was an issue, especially during the board meeting night and when individuals were paying their water bills. So what we have been trying to do was find other locations. We have checked with what was the previous Eden Mall, which is now an economic development center. They do charge a daily fee. Another suggestion was the fire departments, that they also charge a fee. It has also been mentioned about going back to the Eden Library, which we had parking issues and a lot of congestion in that area. Some people were driving on the sidewalks. So it's been a chore trying to find a place that would have adequate parking, would have accessibility for those with certain disabilities, and trying to find an area for curbside voting. And I understand that the chairman has spoke to the mayor of Eden and may have an option for us, unless there's something else you would like to add.
No, thank you. So before we discuss this, I would like to give you this information. I talked to the mayor and the city manager. The city manager of Eden has been extremely helpful in this matter. He said, if we own it, it's yours if you want to use it. And so the suggestion today was going back to Bridge Street for the primary only. And so in looking at the numbers, it looks like that in Eden at the early voting site, we're voting somewhere between 79 to 200 people a day, depending on, how the people turn out. So I know that during the general election, there was some complaints about Bridge Street because there was another activity going on there and parking was limited because the workers for us were taking parking places, and then the other action at the facility was taking parking places. And that's one reason that we moved it, was based on the comments from the workers and the public. But in considering this, I think that I would at least like the board to consider Bridge Street as an early voting site, since the number of people would be less on a daily basis. And, I think that's still better than the Eden Library, although we used the library for quite some time. And I'm quite sure that everybody's not going to be satisfied or pleased with any particular place that we choose. But that is an option, and I thought it was a viable option. Is the reason that I throw it out there for discussion along with the rest of the stuff that Ms. Seamster's brought to the board. So is there discussion on this?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you and the director for the work that you've done. I know that you've really worked hard to find a place, and we all know there's no such thing as a perfect place. As far as some of the comments that have been made, I want to say, certainly for myself, and I believe for this board, that we've been very responsive to the concerns that were raised about the Eden City Hall. Again, at the time, that seemed to be our best option. Ms. Seamster spoke about the library. The library is not an option that I would support. I saw it myself in the past. There's not enough parking, cars out into the street, a line of cars. Spoke with people that worked at the library there. It was just, in their opinion, a disaster. You looked in some options that I thought could have been good options. We thought about the previous Eden Mall, but I think if we have a good place that is offered to us without having to pay, would not support having to pay somewhere, which that takes us to the Bridge Street option. And again, there's no perfect place. I've watched the Bridge Street precinct for many, many elections as a candidate, and never thought it was a good place to have it on election day. But I do believe it's the best option that we have for early voting. I think that each early voting day, with as many early voting days as we have, that it should be a reasonable option, a very adequate option. As I said, there's no perfect option. But I hope, honestly, that we will go ahead and accept that Bridge Street this evening. I know that we have another month to wait, but I think it would be good if we could go ahead and make that decision as early as possible, and so the word could be getting out. Another positive about the Bridge Street place is that I believe most people in the Eden area are familiar with it. And indeed, it has been a voting site for decades. And so look forward to hearing the discussion, but I'll just say that I hope that we do go ahead and accept the Bridge Street option this evening and move forward.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Anybody else have comments or questions?
I agree that the Bridge Street option is our better option. Parking sometimes is a problem there, but all of our other options, the parking issue is worse, I think. People are familiar with that location, and I have found over the years that most of the issues at that location are with the electioneering people, not parking, although parking can become an issue when you have a lot of people trying to get in there, but I agree that that's our best option.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I agree as to the gentleman and Sarah that this would be a good place, but I feel like it is overcrowded with electioneers, and I don't know if we need to have that many. I mean, it's full.
Do we have that many, though, during early voting? I know we do on some days, but during the early voting time, I know you were at the Penrose Mall some, and I was too during early voting. I think
Anytime I've gone over to the Bridge Street,
No.
it's been crowded with.
There's usually a lot of electioneering folks there.
And you
Not
have
as
plenty
much.
of room on the, on the street for the electioneers to park. They don't have to park where they've been parking.
so. If we were to do that, Ms. Seamster, can we issue some kind of guidance to our candidates that say, your electioneering people need, wherever we're going to park them, if that's on the street. I mean, I do think, I agree with Ms. Wright, they need to be kept out of the parking lot. That needs to be kept for the voters.
We can do that. We actually had to do that with the high school this time because they moved us to a different area, and we did designate parking for our voters. So that is something we can do, designate parking.
I think you have the option to vote on both sides of the streets at that location.
I think so.
Yeah,
At park. That's just issue
To park, yeah.
Park.
yeah.
Mr. White, I
Wait, I
haven't heard you
said that.
comment on this. Do you have a comment on
No,
this?
I'm like thrilled to hear that Bridge Street's back as an option, because I've been looking for a couple of months in Eden. You know, I just get in the car and drive around looking for something that I could then go harass somebody at City Hall about. But, you know, and I've looked, and, you know, the fireman's hut came up, but I questioned that even when it came up, and I drove out there, and then when they realized we didn't have any money to, you know, pay for it. So, I mean, I think it's great. I do think that we can encourage the election workers not to park there, but of course we need to make sure that we put something in there giving stipulations for people who need handicap parking. The other issue I've always noticed, and ultimately I think we would find out what the city wants on that, is people putting all their signs up on those fences, risk damaging the fences, and it looks really tacky, but my concern is more about like possibly damaging the fences the way that people stick stuff up there. I think we should ask the city how they feel about that, and whether, you know, let them give us the rule of whether they want us to say no signs on the fence.
Are you talking at Bridge Street?
At Bridge Street, yeah.
Ms. Sangster, so we only control, what is it, the area that the electioneering people can stand, that's the only control we actually have over signs is in that area, is that correct?
That is correct,
So
where they cannot post them.
we could actually ask the city to make that a ruling on their end and enforce it, but we could not enforce that.
Right.
The city would have to do it.
And that's fine, but I think we should ask them, because it's always been a concern for me, because people stick them up there with seemingly without an awful lot of thought.
All right. Well, I can just tell you that in the last election, I got a real education on the First Amendment. Because I would have helped shut down a whole lot of things that was going on, but I was told we couldn't do that. So we can certainly contact the city of Eden and see if they will help us with that, because certainly that's their property. If they don't want signs on the fence, then they should be able to say,
right,
we don't want signs on the fence. So let me just say before we'll entertain a motion, but I wanted to say something, and I think this is as good a time as any, in response to, one of the comments talking about accessibility for the voters and encouraging the vote. I think that, we made some significant changes in the voting sites, particularly, for the for the election day, and we did make some moves in the early voting. And when you look at the totals of that, I now realize this was an unusual race probably, but we certainly did not hurt the voting public in what we done this time. We had a greater turnout at some of the precincts than we've seen in quite a while. And so I hope that will continue, and it's certainly not our goal to ever try to persuade people not to come or to make the process so encumbering that they cannot vote. So with that, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair?
Dr. Jones.
You're entertaining the motion, hearing the discussion. I move that we adopt the Bridge Street Rec Center for the Eden early voting site. And going forward, we can continue to discuss and work out the electioneering issue, the parking issue, but I would move that we go ahead and approve the Bridge Street site this evening.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. On to item number 8, which is the general election early voting plan. I believe that there are 7 different options. And for you folks up here, if you look at this, the front page on here, it will give you a synopsis of those changes, so you don't have to look at it and figure it out. So somebody start us off. I'm not going to do that. So who has some comments to make or a suggestion?
For me, the only real option is option 5. It's the one that gives us a lower cost, and it gives us one Saturday, which is the required Saturday. And then we would have one Sunday, which would only be 3 hours versus I think it's 7 or 8 hours on Saturdays. I can do the math, but I know that there are some people who are not a fan of Sunday voting, and I would recommend that they come one of the other days. And that for the folks who this really does matter to, they should matter to us too, because they're citizens of this county. And it's a 3-hour time slot for them to come vote. And statistically, I remember quite a few years ago, it looked like it was less voters, but when you broke it down by the hour, it was like one of the top 2 or 3 days of voting per hour of that year. I want to say it was 2018. It could have been 20.
So what's your recommendation?
Option 5, which would be the required Saturday, October 31st, and would give us a 3-hour time slot on Sunday, October 24th.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this before I do?
Well, if you agree, do you have to speak?
No, you don't, if you agree, no. If there's somebody else with another suggestion on another plan, we'll be glad to discuss that or listen to your argument.
Yes, sir, I was going to defer to one of the ladies if they wanted to go first, but I'm prepared to speak.
Go ahead, Dr. Gomes.
Thank you, sir. And I appreciate my colleagues' comments, and I appreciate the comments of the ladies that spoke earlier about this issue. I want to say this, first of all. I think we ought to go on record saying that the state of North Carolina has more voting days than any state in the country. That is something that often goes unsaid. And so, when we start talking about opportunities to vote and, people make a lot of wild allegations and so forth, I just want to point that out. The legislature has indeed been extremely generous with the schedule that has passed the legislature. Now, there was a time when I was in the legislature, actually, that we passed a schedule that would have offered 10 days of early voting, which, by the way, still would have been the longest period in the country. So, again, I think we cannot neglect that. It can't be understated that there are a number of states that have 1 day. There are many countries that have 1 day, and we used to have 1 day. So I hope that everyone could at least agree that anybody that has established or been a part of establishing the voting schedule for North Carolina, the fact is that it is the most generous in the country. I like early voting. I think most people do. Most people are fans of it. I also want to see everyone have a good opportunity to vote, regardless what their working schedule is. With that said, I would not support a Sunday option, and I hear what you're saying. I know that for some people that is important. First of all, and perhaps most importantly of all, I'm not going to make our people work 7 days a week because I believe that if we have all the Mondays through Fridays, we have options for 1 or 2 Saturdays, and I would support 2 Saturdays. As one of the ladies said earlier, she'd like to see 2 weekend dates. I would support 2 Saturdays. But I do believe that our employees deserve a day of rest. Now, I've realized that everybody doesn't share my faith, but I also would just point out that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th, and I think established something there. I appreciate the fact that there are businesses that have to be open on Sunday. Frankly, if the hospital was not open on Sunday, I wouldn't be with y'all tonight. So I appreciate that. In emergencies, that has to be done. But I believe the fact that we would have so many voting days, that we would have 2 weekend days if we adopted option 2, which would be the 2 Saturdays, plus the fact that we have absentee voting, mail-in voting. I mean, if somebody works 6 or 7 days a week and they work long days before 8 o'clock in the morning and till after 7:30 in the evening, and they work through lunch, I mean, they still can vote. They still can vote absentee and by mail. So, for all of those reasons, I appreciate the discussion and what we've heard, and I recognize that we have to pass a unanimous vote tonight, or it will go to the State Board of Elections. And if what we hear is true, we probably will not pass a unanimous vote. But in the spirit of at least a compromise, I would propose to go to option 2, which would give us 2 weekend days, and they would both be Saturdays. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
I support your position, Ms. Jones.
Well, so let me say, I cannot see any situation in where I would support Sunday voting, and that's just me. Unfortunately, I'm on the board and I have a vote, so that would be my vote. I too would support, a compromise for the 2 Saturdays, if that would, please the Mr. White and the Democrat Party. I do believe strongly that our workers need a break, but there's other people involved in this too. We have candidates who are trying their best to cover these votes. I know some people say, well, you're not going to change people's mind at the polls, but there's data that proves that wrong. I can prove that wrong by one of my very own elections back in 2022. So I know that the candidates feel like they need to cover these election days, and it's very difficult to do that when you've got 14, 15, 16 days, whatever it turns out to be. And so as much as we talk about electioneering and, sometimes the problems that it causes, it's still a valid part of the election process. Our workers, who work very hard and appreciate everything they do, I think that they certainly deserve at least one day of rest during that period, because it is quite stressful at some of the polls with some of the people that they interact with. So having said that, I would like to say that I would offer, I know that the Democrat Party wishes to have a Sunday. The NAACP has sent in, a letter in support of having a Sunday. Mr. White, you've suggested item number 5, or option number 5 was your preferred choice. My question for you guys would be, will you accept the compromise for 2 Saturdays, or are you going to stick with the Sunday?
I'm sticking with the Sunday.
Okay.
So for me, to be clear, it's not about what the Democratic Party wants, it's what the NAACP wants. And I think they should be represented as well. And they're asking for 3 hours, and the other would cost us more money. So I don't see the logic in not considering that. Unless you just want to spend more money for the principle of not doing a Sunday.
Yes, sir, Dr. Jones.
Again, I appreciate all the comments that have been made. I think everybody has stated their case very clearly. We can either vote soon or we can vote at midnight, but it appears that this is going to the State Board, because if we have one or more members, which we do, that have stated that they will only support Sunday voting, and we also have one or more members, which we have, stated that they will not support Sunday voting, I would be prepared to make a motion for option number 2, expecting it to fail to receive that unanimous vote. And I would assume that one of our Democratic colleagues would also submit a motion for option number 5, which will fail, and then we'll send it to the State Board and we'll move on.
Well, I think that is the proper way for us to do that. So if I hear you correctly, are you prepared to make a motion to accept? I'm sorry, Ms. Wright, I'm sorry, thank
Let
you.
me make sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying sending 2 options.
I think it would be appropriate now. It's up to you guys if you want to make an option.
Can you send 2
a motion.
options?
Well, I
I
don't
think they would
I
have
don't-
one from each party. I'm gonna make a motion that we accept option 2, which is the 2 Saturdays. And I assume that one of our Democrat colleagues would want to offer a motion, but that would be up to you guys.
Well, I think, Ms. Simpson, you can weigh in on this, but I think that we probably need to have that on the record for the State Board, that we've we've had two options presented and both failed. Is that correct?
Yes, you will need a majority option and a minority option.
Okay.
So,
All right, so Ms. Wright, I'm sorry, do you have anything else? Did that answer your question? All right, so Dr. Jones, I assume if you would wish to make your motion, you can make that now?
Yes, sir. So I move that we would adopt option number 2 as the early voting schedule that has the 2 Saturdays, October 24th and October 31st.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. A motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign.
No.
All right. Now, Mr. White, would you like to make a motion for your option?
Yes, I would motion that we adopt option 5 and respect the African-American community in this county.
And so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Comment,
All in-
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just because of the way the option was made, I would just like to go on record to say I have deep respect for every human being, regardless of skin color. It is my position that there is only one race, and that's the human race, and that we all are of one blood and that we're related, but I understand we all have different backgrounds and people define that differently. But I'm going to vote against this option, but I want to make it very clear that I have complete respect for every human, regardless of their color, creed, nationality, language, background, period. Thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor of option number 5, say aye. And all opposed, like sign. Aye.
No.
Okay, all right, so we have those two motions have failed the unanimous vote. Ms. Seamster, I assume that you will make the proper notifications to the state board and they can take the action they deem most appropriate.
I will do that.
Okay, now. I
Yes,
have
ma'am.
One question. Now, will you have 2 people to defend their reason for their option, to be prepared to do that? I just want to make sure that we know that that's what we need to do.
That's normally what
We will need a representative from this board, not me, but one of the ones that were for the majority, which would have been option 2, because it received 3 votes to 2, and then the minority vote, which is, we would have to have one person for that, for option 5, because it was 2 to 3. But yes, I do not know if they're going to require you to go to Raleigh, or if it will be like what we've done in the past, where it's done virtual. Once all of the early voting plans have been submitted, that's when they will make that decision, whether it will be held in Raleigh or locally.
Let me ask you this, do we need to do that tonight, or can we wait and see what day they're going to do that, what the date is, so that we can, each member will be able to determine if it's better suited for them on that day?
That is entirely up to this board. I know we do have to have the early voting, the last date to submit early voting plans is July 24th, so no meetings will be scheduled until after that date.
So we're not going to know our availability.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we're not going to really know our availability, so we won't have to meet. We can do that through email or a phone call.
That's-
It's either going to be Mr. White or,
Yeah.
yeah, and then one of the 3 of us.
Because I'll have to submit the names
Okay.
to the state board
All right,
once they tell us where it will be scheduled.
okay, all right, well, thank you for that. Item number 9 is the director's update.
Yes. Candidate filing. So candidate filing for the Soil and Water Conservation District Supervisor began on June the 8th at 12 o'clock noon, and that filing is still going on. No one has filed as of yet. The filing ends on July the 6th. Normally, it ends at 12, but because the holiday is on Friday, it will end at 5 p.m. on July the 6th. There are 2 vacancies on that board, so, and it is a $5 filing fee. If anyone is interested, we are open from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, for filing until July the 6th at 5 o'clock p.m. And that's all I have, unless you want to do what I asked earlier.
You talking about the legislative updates?
No,
Oh, no, so let me do that. Yeah, let me do
Okay.
that now. So, all right, but that's all we have is.
that is all we
okay.
have.
All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, one thing that I should have done this at the beginning, and it just simply slipped my mind, but Dana Blair's, am I right on that?
Dane Blair.
Dane Blair's, served as a precinct official here for 26 years at the Rock Central Precinct, early voting, passed away on June the 6th, okay? And so we just wanted to say that we appreciate her service to the election board, to the elections here in Rockingham County. I understand that there were several people that wrote in and said she's the one that encouraged me to get involved with local elections. And so in honor of her, I've asked Ms. Seamster if she would prepare a resolution honoring her, and we will present that to her family. We have to have a meeting in August. And so we could present that to them at August and love on them and let them know how much we appreciated her work and dedication to the county. And I would not expect that I would hear anything other than yes and praise for that from this board. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So, Ms. Seamster, if you would prepare that, yes, hang on one second. If you would prepare that, and we will be prepared to do that in August, please let her family know so that they can be here. And we would let the public information officer for the county know as well, so that he can be here to record that event for the county. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Seamster, I just want to make the point when you're preparing that, her last name is actually Blair with no S on it, so it's
That is correct.
Blair. And I just want to say that she was a very fine lady. I've known her for virtually all my life. I grew up going to church with the same church where she was, and she had many decades of service here, but she was a lady of fine character, and I'm glad we're going to honor her.
Yep. What I also understand, she was very talented as well with the instruments that she could play, so.
All right, well, that brings us down to board comments. Ms. Wright, I believe you said something about not ever going first, so you want me to let you go first?
You can let me go first.
All
You
right.
let me go last.
Well, you go right ahead.
I appreciate those of you who came to speak to us tonight as your choice of early voting options. And I'd like to say that, you know, when we raised our hand and were sworn in, we swore to allow every voter the opportunity to vote. And if you offer them the opportunity of Sunday or Saturday, whether God didn't make the world in 7 days, but still we swore that we would allow everyone the opportunity to vote. And there's nothing wrong with voting on a Sunday and not just stuck on 2 Saturdays. I just want to make sure that we're clear about that. And I would hope that when we do go to Raleigh, that we will be able to defend the reason that we have chosen a Sunday and 1 Saturday, not just 2 Saturdays. Thank you for coming.
I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and we do appreciate and respect your opinions on the early voting schedule. We do hope that when a final decision is made, that we can all agree that it is justified. We do our very best to do what we think is right for the citizens of this county, and sometimes we have to make tough decisions, and it's hard to please everybody, but again, we don't want anyone to think that we have not taken into consideration the rights of every citizen in this county. There's a lot of things that we look at that you guys don't realize, but we appreciate you allowing us to be a part of this board, and we want you to realize that you are the reason that we do this. We do it for you. Thank you.
Mr. White.
I also want to thank everyone for being here and being active and a part of all that goes on. And I appreciate what Dr. Jones said about the amount of days that North Carolina offers for early voting. But a lot of days that are available to people who money is not a concern for versus low-income people who have Sunday off equals 0 days to them. And I think it is fairly easy to make everybody happy. You give everyone a day of the week that they can vote, or you take one away from them. It's that simple to me. And I am an ordained minister who runs a church, and I work on Sundays, and I get paid to work on Sundays. So it's not a church thing either, because I don't know a church that doesn't pay people to show up and work on Sunday. Thank you.
Dr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I want to appreciate everybody on the board and everybody that came out tonight. You know, one of the things I really love and appreciate about this board is that we can disagree without being disagreeable. And I wish that were true everywhere. But we can certainly love one another, and we can disagree. I would again say that if you're looking for allowing the most possibility, North Carolina, in my opinion, is the #1 state in the country out of the 50 because of the number of days we vote, and also the fact that we allow absentee mail-in voting. I think that should be said. And again, I appreciate everybody's comments, but and I especially appreciate the way this board conducts itself. And like I said, we can disagree about things without being disagreeable. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome. So let me just start off by saying that I know last year when there were changes made to this board, there were some apprehensions, particularly probably because of me. Some folks was unsure of how I would conduct myself. And I think through this last election, we have proven not only that I, but this board can do things, even though we share different ideologies, and make ourselves purely transparent to the county citizens, and that we work for the entire county, not a special group on one side or the other. We don't work for black folks. We don't work for white folks. We don't work for the Hispanics. We work for the entire county. And I can tell you that our work as a board has garnered such attention through the primary season that the state board has elected to use our count for the provisional ballots as training for the rest of the state. And I say that to say this. I'm not here to work for any particular group, and I don't make my decisions based on that. If we're truly interested in the number of hours that are made available for Rockingham citizens to vote, the option for 2 Saturdays allows the most time to vote. Because Sunday vote's only from 1 to 4, so it's only 3 hours. So it leads me to believe that there may be some ulterior motive. Maybe there's one group feels there's an advantage, one group feels there's not. I don't know, but that was, Mr. White and eloquently brought up that he represented the ideas of the NAACP, and that doesn't make us wrong in voting for 2 Saturdays, and it doesn't make them wrong for not voting for it. And we'll let the state board determine what they want to do there. But I would like to say that there is a considerable amount of working together with this board. Mr. White has been a pleasure to work with. Ms. Wright has been a pleasure for me to work with. And of course, the other 2, I know them very well. But we have done the very best that we can do in order to bring forth the most opportunity for citizens in this county to vote. When we started looking at changing the precinct locations, we heard about the cost involved in it. Well, that doesn't really concern me. The county's got plenty of money. They spend it on everything else. They can spend it on a precinct. And we changed those, and we've seen more voting in the Reidsville precinct, particularly, than we have in many years. We changed some of the early voting, and I know that there were people say, well, we'd be interested in seeing the numbers. Well, the numbers are available. Go look at them. We've made voting accessible for every person in this county. Now, let me tell you something about human nature. You'll do what you want to do. If you want to vote, you'll make time to go vote. It's 12 hours in a day. You got 13 days or 17 days or 105 days, whatever. If you move to California, I think they're still voting. So you can go out there and you can vote for 6 months. But the point is that this board has made it very accessible in this county to vote. We've listened to the concerns of our constituents, the citizens. It's the reason we were talking about the Eden City Hall tonight. We elected to move that. We thought that was a pretty good location. It just didn't work out quite like we thought, but all the rest of them did. And we've had more participation, and I realize sometimes that is pursuant to who's on the ballot. But I think this board has done a tremendous job. Not me. It's not me. I can be outvoted at any time of the day or night. But so it does concern me when, if we bring up things that concern race or ethnicity or something like that, because that's definitely not what we have been about. We've really been over backwards. The staff, Ms. Seamster and her staff have been over backwards to accommodate both sides of the aisle and some that were hanging from the roof, I think. And we're going to continue to do that. So, for the board members here tonight, I love you just as much as I did when I come in. And we're going to keep loving on one another, and we're going to try to do what's right, but there's going to be times when we just do not agree, and we're going to let the state decide it. So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. That was unanimous.